Good morning, everyone. Greg Lukasik from Ecolab. It's a pleasure to be here. We were just celebrating World Water Day a few days ago, so I think this is very timely. And I'll be talking to you here about water resilience. So the reason I joined this amazing company 3 years ago, and actually many of you in the room are customers of ours and partners of ours for many, many years. But what really attracted me to Ecolab is actually we're part of the sustainability solution that is being discussed for the last few days. We're the ones who are helping solve the water challenges and the energy challenges that come along with water across your operations. And I will be presenting several case studies, but before I do that, just a couple of words about Ecolab. We're one of the very few Fortune 500 companies that is over 100 years old. And we are the global sustainability leader offering water, infection prevention, sanitation solutions and services to protect people and to protect the resources vital to life. We are proud of the innovation that drives our company and our partners for all those years. We have over 1,600 scientists around the world who are working across various R&D centers developing the latest technologies, which now integrate more and more digital and AI solutions as part of that offering, which is supported by a growing team of digital experts, over 1,200 now across the company. And our 50,000 associates operate across 40 different industries around the world and in 170 countries. And just to illustrate, I mean, most of what we do touches water, and we help manage 4 billion cubic meters of water annually. Nearly one quarter of the world's power generation is cooled by water which Ecolab manages. Over 1/3 of the world's food processed industry is being managed by Ecolab when it comes to water and hygiene. And just a bit closer to home here, to give you an example, Singapore, where we've been operating for more than 50 years, more than half of the industry water in Singapore is being impacted by Ecolab. So, to give you a sense of some of those industries, not all are being listed here, obviously, but our experts work across a very broad range of sectors. And to illustrate a few, power generation is one, from the more traditional thermal power plants, all the way to some of the more renewable power sources and energy sources that we have today, particularly here in the region of interest is geothermal. In the Ring of Fire, there's a growing source of geothermal power. I think it was touched on this morning in one of the presentations. We're also operating in the paper and packaging sector, which is very water intensive. Food and beverage manufacturing, I was mentioning earlier. Lodging, I'll have case studies on that, and there were a lot of presentations on lodging earlier. Restaurants, manufacturing, which is a very broad segment, from heavy manufacturing, oil and gas, chemicals, all the way to lighter manufacturing setups. High-tech sector, there was a lot of talk about data centers. We work with all the global hyperscaler brands to help them cool their exponentially growing energy hungry data centers. And so we're leading the innovations in the data center space around the world for cooling. And food retail services. Now, industrial use of water in some more developed countries can represent up to half of water consumption. And the UN predicts that in the first half of the century, the use for industrial water will grow by 400%. So, with that said, I would call on all the corporate leaders in the room, the government leaders in the room, to think about, how can we become more action and oriented and responsible for finding better ways to reduce, reuse, repurpose water in our operations. I think we owe it to the world and to addressing the water crisis, which is unfolding over the years and will only get worse as time goes. The second point on this slide is one that I hope most of you in the room are familiar with, which is the water-energy nexus. And if you are familiar with it, I would ask you to, as you leave the conference, help educate larger audiences about it, because there's a very strong linkage between water and energy. It takes energy to move water, to heat water, cool, and clean water. In fact, we have found that certain operations can take, certain industrial setups can take up to 75% of the energy use is linked to water. And what we've also found is that by driving strong water reduction efforts on a site operations, we can reduce energy use by up to 22% and greenhouse gas emissions by up to 12%. So this water-energy nexus is really a very important one, which I hope everyone can take back to your day-to-day jobs and to the educating of a larger group of people, including executives who have tended to be focused more on GHG emissions over the last few years and the energy side of the equation. So to illustrate a little bit more, the interdependence of water and water quality in operations is very complex. And obviously with the limited time and on this very simple slide, you can see two graphics. The one on the left shows you an industrial setup, and it shows different stages of where water might be used. And on the right side, you see a more commercial type building or facility, which illustrates, again, different points within that site where water is being used and where Ecolab typically intervenes to help optimize. Now, one thing about those graphs is I want to call upon your attention on the value of taking a holistic approach to a site rather than looking at an individual project, hoping it'll really pay off. In fact, holistic approaches to water have way stronger payouts in terms of not only dollars, but also sustainability impact in terms of water and energy saved. Why? Because a lot of upstream processes impact what happens downstream, and there is very big interdependency. The simplest example being, contamination of water up on an upstream process that ends up in a wastewater tank at the end of the process. So, as corporate leaders who are looking at how are you going to improve the sustainability of a given site or operation, it helps to take this holistic approach, but also take into consideration many factors, which makes the job more interesting but challenging. You need to consider local regulations. You need to consider your long-term freshwater availability. And I have plenty of examples of customers who come crying, saying, well, we didn't think we'd run out of water on this site, or we didn't exactly plan accordingly. We thought of the energy source, but we didn't think about the water source. You need to consider what kind of sustainability goals you're trying to achieve. There are other ways as well to consider, how to leverage your digital and AI assets, or the ones that we offer with our technology to help measure and track the projects that are being implemented on your site. And ultimately, as you put all this together, expertise, this holistic approach to managing water on a given site, combined with this digital and AI solutions that are now being improved year after year, we have solutions that really not only help save dollars and bring and help you get closer to your sustainability targets, but also help extend the life of your assets, which is another part of the equation that really matters. So I'm about to flip through a few cases that will illustrate examples of how we've been doing this across different industries. And I hope these will inspire you and your teams to drive further water resiliency in your operations. The first case is from Nestlé. We heard about Nestlé earlier. That's Nestlé Thailand and Nestlé Australia. I'll brush through those really quickly. In Thailand, Nestlé operates 8 sites, and we installed our latest IoT technology called 3D TRASAR, which is basically water flow information, water quality information, feeding and dosing information live 24/7, which really helps drive water savings, but also creates a very strong base for data, real-time data to help management take actions real-time, and also now with predictive analytics, help make decisions that really help drive best-in-class and benchmarking across multi-sites. On the example on the right, besides installing this 3D TRASAR technology, we also implemented a very specific application on retort water, which is used, it's the most sterilization process in the food and beverage industry. So we helped Nestle in Australia to reuse this retort water, saving nearly 30,000 cubic meters of water annually. That's the equivalent of 11 Olympic-sized swimming pools, just to give you an idea. And again, with that water saved, you're saving energy. This next example is from a global hotel chain. We've heard about hotel chains this morning. We work with all the major global hotel brands and a lot of regional brands on their hygiene and on their water efficiency. And in this case, besides installing 3D TRASAR technology on hundreds of their sites, we've also implemented an innovative low-temperature laundry program, which saves up to 20% of energy and 10% of water on site. So on this particular global brand example, we're helping them save annually 3 million cubic meters of water. That's a lot of Olympic-sized swimming pools in the thousands, and associated CO2 and energy savings alongside with that. The next example is from a local company many of you might be familiar with if you're from this part of the world and from Thailand, the Siam Cement Group, a very large Thai conglomerate with whom we've been working for decades. We work with several of their divisions, and they have many sites in the region. This is just one example here. We implemented an engineering solution called Pareto mixing technology for their pulp and paper production, and we're achieving several hundreds of thousands of cubic meters of water savings annually, and again, energy associated with that water. So we spoke about data centers a lot in the last couple of days. In this particular example, for a data center in Singapore, we also installed our 3D TRASAR technology, and the actions on water, in this case, on this particular site, also helped save up to 30,000 cubic meters of water annually. The last example is from Shell in Singapore. So a few years back, Shell had an ambitious target to reduce water consumption, fresh water consumption, by 15% by 2025, in addition to meeting, of course, local regulations. So we did an in-depth total plant water footprint assessment and came to a conclusion, an alignment with Shell, that the best solution would be to build a wastewater recycling station. That station is fully automated with all the digital capabilities, and we're able to save on that site 300,000 cubic meters of water annually and nearly 500,000 kilowatt hours of energy, and of course, with that, associated CO2 emissions. So look, in closing, and I know this is going pretty fast, and I'm happy to answer questions if time allows, 5 key takeaways. The first is this water-energy nexus. I really insist on that. I think it's still very misunderstood in terms of the impact water has on energy. And we'd be more than happy to help assess what is the share of energy on your operation that is driven by water. You'd be surprised. So let's please keep educating larger audiences about that very strong linkage between water and energy. The second is taking a holistic, integrated approach to water management on an operation, at least at a site level, has much stronger impact than an individual project on one step of the process because of the interdependency between upstream all the way to downstream processes. Leveraging digital for those site-wide approaches is becoming more and more effective, and data is really helping drive more intelligent and more optimized solutions. The third point, and that's more advice to the CSOs in the room, I really believe the best sustainability projects are the ones that come with the dollars. And I know some of the earlier presenters today made that point very strong. For us, this is the way we run our partnerships with customers. We will always make a calculation of what are the dollar savings associated with the projects we're recommending in your facilities, in your operations. When you put a dollar savings associated to it, you have a much better chance of getting the project, your sustainability project, on top of the pile. And many times you'd be impressed to see the return on investment. It's not a decade-long return. It can be in months or a couple of years. Fourth, you cannot manage what you don't measure. This is a good saying that is being used in many instances, in many industries, of course. Very true here. Water is not always being measured historically. We have a lot of technology to support that. Set realistic targets, and we can help track where you're doing on that journey. And the last point, and I'll close on that, is I'm a big believer that as responsible government leaders in the room and industry leaders in the room, we need to work hand in hand to help address this water crisis, which is going to affect not only us today, but the generations to come. So with that, huge thanks, and I look forward to the remaining sessions of the day. Thank you.